Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the YouTube channel. Welcome. Thank you for coming. This is gonna be an MIL movie explainer speedrun. And speaking of speedrun, I'll now start the timer. Okay, anyways, so I was thinking of this idea. Not necessarily we have to like combine all of the movie ideas into one movie. It's more like it's driven by the Ash's idea, which is about like a day in the life kind of narrative, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a day in the life. It's more of like there's going to be a narrator, but this narrator will also be the character in the story. At the same time, the main theme of the movie will be a cautionary tale towards the use of or the reliance on AI tools like ChatGPT, right? So we're gonna be building on those two ideas. The only thing is that we're going to be using the other ideas. Actually, let's put it up right now. I'm gonna be using the other ideas as details to the story. Not necessarily it has to be the story itself. It just has to be there. That to make the narrative more pleasant, right? It's to pad out the story. Because if we're gonna be using the ChatGPT idea solely and Ash's idea solely, it feels pushed. We can, with those two ideas, yes, we can reach around 5 to 10 minutes, but using only those two to drive the story, it feels like we're forcing to pan it out. So we're not gonna do that. We're gonna be adding these stories. We're gonna be not the stories, but we're gonna be adding these ideas too. Anyways, this is how it goes, right? So it starts off with you guys have to use your imagination here, but it starts off as it's not really a dream, but it's like the narrator's narrating he, she, their experiences of anything that we could think of in the future. But what was in my mind was they were talking about what do I call this, anything about their emotions, and like what Ash said, with a hint of romance. So they're gonna be talking about love and this concept of a lover or an love interest, right? At this point, the viewer is thinking who this love interest is, right? And then as this whole thing is going on, there could be scenes in the background, but then by the time the narrator says something like, now you're probably thinking who this person I love is, blah blah blah. It's gonna be an eye level shot, as in it's going to be within this frame now of our eyes, of the character's eye, right? And then as this frame is going on, in the background, we could probably chroma key that like a green screen or something. But there's like scenes in the background, anything really, or it could just be a scene with this frame level, and then we can change the opacity so that there's scenes going on in this frame, and then someone in the background with a muffled voice at first. It says Esther, and then until suddenly the voice gets louder and then Esther, bam, and then that eye level shot, the background changes to what's happening in the present. So she's the character. Okay, that's a clue now. I slipped. I said she because in my mind the character is a girl. But yeah, what do you call this? It cuts to the present moment. The background changes, but it's still an eye level shot. So the viewer still doesn't know what's happening, but they know that the character is now grounded back to reality, right? And then as it's going on, the audio has a ringing sound, like together with the muffled voice. So it sounds it's very movie like, it's dream like, that's a start, right? It's very similar to how Martin Scorsese does his movies, especially with most of his movies start off like this. It starts off with the central narrator. The narrator is the character itself, That's why if you guys are gonna watch a movie, I suggest watching Wolf of Wall Street because you'll see how it's filmed. Anyways, here's an example of how we'll do it. Blah blah blah, yap yap yap. Uh, I honestly don't know how I got here. It all began with a glance, a fleeting moment that ignited a spark within me, propelling me into a whirlwind of emotions at his side. The escort who would unravel the threads of my heart. As I navigate the turbulent waters of this romance, friendships are tested, secrets unveiled, and the true meaning of love remains just out of reach. So, who is this, anyways?
Esther.
Who is
Esther.
Esther? Yeah, it's something like that. So I guess now, by that time, when the intro finishes, the viewer then asks the question in their heads. Obviously, they don't have to ask it out loud, and just subconsciously they're gonna ask the question, "Who is Esther?" Right? Or whatever the name of our character will be. Um, who is the character? What the character is going through? What the character is struggling with? And who is the character talking about when they're doing their monologue? So who is this concept of the love interest? And then once the intro finishes, that's where a bit of our creative freedom comes in, because there's gonna be more on the narrative side na, less on the narration, more on acting already. So by this time we're gonna be um, moving on with the plot, but in this part, it's up to us how to, to make it funny, kind of. But we what we can do is make the character just go on with their lives, act on their lives, and then during this time, um, Esther is gonna meet some friend, and then what we can do, right? Since Esther or the character, whatever, is the embodiment of students, of the science, basically, right? They're gonna be Esther or whatever the character's name would be, and their friend are gonna go around, campus. They're gonna be talking about. They're just gonna yap yap yap, and then there might be a scene where they start talking and then they start judging people. This is where the mockumentary idea comes in, right? Like as they're judging people, um, that's where the Lasallian stereotypes can come in. So they're talking about, oh, that guy is this, that guy is that. No, you see that guy over there? Yeah, that guy paid his, no, that guy gambled off his tuition, kada or something. Yeah, something like that. And then, just keep on moving on with the plot. There's some more stuff that we want to establish when you're writing the story. We want to establish that the character, of course, first and foremost, is some sort of overachiever kid. Francis and Jan's idea comes in of this, this um, teen, this character is kind of addicted to their phone, and at some point, the character gets overwhelmed with work. And then what else? I also thought that what we can establish with this character too is that this character is a new student, right? And then the friend is the friend who's gonna be guiding the main character throughout, their journey in whatever, in the school, in the Sal, for example. And then right, so the character gets overwhelmed with work, right? He's an overachiever. Maybe the character can also be a STEM student who no, actually not a STEM student, whatever. Yeah, I guess like a STEM student who's an overachiever, an academic, but struggles with creative thinking. That's why when I was thinking of making this story or the intro, even I was thinking of the character being in an art class, right? And the character is like struggling with trying to come up with a painting, and the classmates around the main character is like coming up with paintings. And then this is where we can even introduce satirical jokes with other characters in the art class, right? Where their paintings depict, for example, politicians in a funny way. There's a lot of stuff we can add. That really depends on our creativity here. Yeah, so once the character gets overwhelmed with the work, especially like for example with essays and stuff. That's when the friend suggests like, oh, why not just chat GPT it? And of course, since this kid is new, the character's new to the school, like, wow, let's chat GPT. And then yeah, the character discovers chat GPT, and then the plot just keeps going on where whatever the task is, this the main character, who's kind of like a perfectionist too, like really wants to make things very neat and stuff, so they really try to use ChatGPT all the time, whatever. That really depends on us. And then the character can also like be struggling with a lot of stuff. Again, that's gonna be on us, on like to drive the plot. So maybe imposter syndrome could be one. And then there's a scene, I guess, where the main character breaks down, right? And then the friend talks to the main character, to Esther, for example, about the name. Okay, so this is why I chose the name Esther, is because, for example, Esther is gonna be telling the story of her name, right? It actually came, like for example, from her mom, who was a teacher, and she loves students so much that her name came from like the word estudiante, for example. But of course, we can change this. I took this idea from Henry Luna, where the Henry Luna guides a photojournalist who's named Hoven, but he embodies the youth. So in this case, Esther is like an embodiment of students, right? So it's a symbolism basically. And then the plot keeps continuing again. We can pad this out with other ideas, and then it gets worse and worse. And then the main character gets attached to ChatGPT, right? The main character gets drained, whatever, and everything the main character does na lang is always goes back to ChatGPT, right? And then eventually ChatGPT, acts like a human, right? And then there should be a scene. I didn't add it here in the docs, but like there should be a scene where it ties back to the intro, and then the viewer realizes that, oh, so the person who the main character was talking about in the intro is actually not a person, it's actually ChatGPT, right? The reason why the main character was talking about ChatGPT like it's a love interest is because that's exactly it, because the main character gets too attached to ChatGPT that it treats it like a human who loves the main character, but in reality, not really. And so whenever the plot keeps continuing, it gets worse and worse, and then finally the main character realizes, oh, I don't know, I'm not happy with this or whatever. And then the main character asks some sort of question. I don't know what question we'll choose, but it could be, for example, like, oh, I'm not happy, how can I be happy, or whatever. The main character asks a question, and then in chat GPT fashion, it says, as an AI model, I can't help you with that. Cuts to black. Bam. That's the story. So how long did that take? Okay, it took 12 minutes. Thank you for watching my speed run on that. I suggest watching Wolf of Wall Street because you'll see how it's filmed. Thank you.